Hi friends, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be creating a fun, festive, holiday themed project, and I'm going to be using the gorgeous Sweet Season mug 6x8 rubber cling stamp set from Honeybee. I actually created this first piece that you're going to see me making, the Santa mug image, for a project last week, and I ended up not using it, so I used that footage of creating the mug for today's project. So you're going to see off to the side there some things that I used last week, but for this project I'm using this stamp set here, and I love this set. It is so adorable, and I just put this onto my Altenew stamp wheel and inked it up with some black ink and stamped it out onto some watercolor paper because I am going to watercolor this image. I chose some waterproof ink, and I also wanted to heat emboss this with clear embossing powder. So I made sure that I used an ink that was slow drying as well because I wanted to use my embossing powder. So I'm just going to go ahead and heat that up and melt it. And so I'm going to end up with these really great ridges and wells on my image that are going to contain the color that I'm using here to watercolor with. Now I'm using Distress Reinkers, and these are really great for watercoloring because they are extremely pigmented. So they're really, really bright, rich, vibrant colors. And I actually sometimes prefer using the Reinkers to just using the ink and putting the ink down on my surface here. So I like this method. I think it's quite nice. And I'm just starting off here with some lost shadow. So I put a little bit of the lost shadow onto my glass mat, took what I would call a thirsty brush. So it's a brush that's been rinsed clean and then most of the moisture taken out on the paper towel before I go into the pigment and pick it up. And I'm just putting a little bit of a hint of this gray ink, the lost shadow, just in the areas around the edge of where it's white. So in the white beard, just kind of around the border and around the edge. Same with the mustache, same with the brim or the fur, so to speak, of the Santa hat and the pom-pom, so that all of these white areas, the eyebrows and so on, just have that little bit of shadow of the lost shadow, and in that way just accentuate the white and make the white look a little bit brighter. And then I'll go in with a little bit of antique linen, and with that antique linen and a thirsty brush, I'm just going to go in and add a little bit of a shadow to the areas in that whipped cream where the artwork indicates there should be a shading or a shadow. And now I'm switching to red, and the red I'm using is Lumberjack Plaid. And again, with my thirsty brush, I'm picking up some of my pigment and going into all of the different areas that are meant to be red. And with the Santa's hat, I'm going to go in on the darkest, in the darkest on the edges. And then I'll just go in with a clean thirsty brush and pull out that color into the white area. And that's just going to kind of bleed out the color in that way. It will just draw out the color so that it stays nice and dark on the edges, but then in the center it's a little lighter, and in that way you're going to get a nice shading. I do apologize for my voice today. I do have a bad cold that I've been battling for a little bit here. For those of you who know, I do have multiple myeloma. It is a blood cancer of the immune system, so I do fight infections, not as much or as well, I should say, as kind of someone that doesn't have that. So anyways, I do apologize for my voice today. I am going over the face with some antique linen, which is a nice sort of Caucasian skin tone color. And for the greens, I'm using pine needles, and then for that really nice bright pink for the mouth and the cheeks, I'm using some I think I used picked raspberry there, so it's just in really nice bright pink. And again, I know I'm repeating myself, but the Distress Reinkers are so rich and vibrant and beautiful for watercoloring. You don't need a lot of ink. That's the key to that. You just need a tiny little bit. Now, this is a snow effect product that I have in my stash I've had for a long time. It's from Studio Light. It works really well, but you can use any product that you have. You can use texture paste for this and just kind of fluff it up with a palette knife. Any kind of like fake sort of snow looking product that you might have in your stash that you can use. And I'm just adding it to sort of like, again, the edge areas where it's meant to be white. So to the beard and the edges of the fur on the cap, the pom-pom, the eyebrows, and the whipped cream. And then I'm going to go over top of that with some glitter. So you can use your rock candy or whatever you have in your stash for glitter. And that is going to hold on to that paste is going to hold on to that glitter. So you can just see how really pretty that's looking. I really like that. I think this Santa cup is just adorable. Now, next I wanted to show you, I'm also going to be using the Decorative Star Layering Frames die set. This is a wonderful die set. This is an older set, but I have used it and used it and used it. And I'm going to use the 2 frames that are in this set and layer them together. The largest frame there, you can see here, I cut on the left in white. And then I cut the other frame from some plaid paper from the Merry Moments paper pad. This is a 6 by 8.5 inch paper pad. And I loved that plaid paper so much for backing our sweet little Santa cup here. So I really think that's an adorable combination. And I'm also going to use this set. This is the Lovely Layers Sleigh Bell. This is brand new with the Merry Moments collection. And I'm going to use some of the pine boughs that are part of this. I'm going to use this one here that I'm showing you. I've die cut that from some green glitter cardstock. And I'm also going to, I die cut out the berries and some of the holly leaves as well. And I'm not going to use everything that I die cut, but I just wanted to show you what I cut. The green glitter paper was just perfect for die cutting these. And then I also cut, you can see there, the berries from some red mirror cardstock. And from the Bough and Bow, or Bow and Bough set, I die cut the boughs from some gold glitter cardstock. And now I've just got all of these different elements to choose from to decorate my Santa mug. So I'm going to put some foam adhesive onto the back of my smaller frame piece, the plaid paper. And I'm just going to get that foam adhesive on there. In that way, it's just going to bump up and give more dimension to our focal point here. I'm just going to give that a good press, centering it onto that white frame. I'll also add a little bit of foam adhesive onto the back of my cup. Now, depending on how much dimension you want on your project, you wouldn't have to add all of this. You can definitely just layer these together flat. And now you can see how I've embellished with the glitter papers in the different shapes there, just creating a little cluster on the upper right and the lower kind of or middle left of our cup. And in that way, just making it look even a little bit more festive with those die cuts. I'm just going to curl them up a little bit and give them even just a little bit more pop on my card, a little bit more dimension. And that is going to finish off those elements of my card. Now, I am going to use this amazing set. This is called Simply Stated Holiday with a coordinating die set, Simply Stated. This is a 1-piece sentiment and 1-piece die set that is going to stamp out and die cut everything in one go. So you can see here I have the stamp set on the door of my Misty. I have my white cardstock in my Misty now. I'm going to ink this up with some black ink and stamp that out. And I'm going to end up with all of these amazing sentiments when I'm done, just with those short steps. Now I'm just being careful not to stretch the stamp when I take it off of my Misty. I'm just kind of rolling it off in that way. And then here you can see the die that coordinates. So when I flip this over, it's going to be coordinating exactly with all of the sentiments that have been stamped out. And there's little hearts die cut out of the die to line up with the stamped hearts that were stamped when you stamped out the sentiment. So that's perfect. It's really easy to line up. And look at all of these really great sentiments that I have to choose from. I'll just put those in a container on my desk and I'll use those during the holiday season to make my projects. So I'm just going to go ahead and adhere this down onto a top folding A2 size card base here from red cardstock. I believe that Simon Says Stamp Schoolhouse Red. It's just a really nice, vibrant, deep red, and it looks very nice with the coloring and the plaid paper. So I'm just going to give that a really good press. And now I'm just going to audition a bunch of these different sentiments because I can. I have so many to pick from. And if I was live right now, I'd get you to help me choose which one you like. But honestly, so many of these look good and you could just choose multiple. So the Santa themed ones would have worked really well. The Holly Jolly and the Ho 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 would have been perfect. I'm going to go with something more generic. I'm going to use that Merry Christmas, but honestly, so many of these would have worked, and you can just see how fantastic that sentiment set is. So if you haven't picked up that Simply Stated holiday stamp and coordinating die set, I would definitely go for it. It is just a really, really awesome set. Now I have added some foam adhesive onto the back of the sentiment that I've chosen, and I'm just going to use my honeybee tweezers to help me put that into place. Once I'm happy with how that looks, I am going to actually go and grab my Merry Moments pearl stickers, and I'm going to add a few of those little red pearls you can see there on my finished card around the greenery and so on there on either side of my little cup. Thank you so much for watching today, friends. Have an amazing day, and I'll see you again soon. Take care. Bye-bye.